Hello, sorry, I had some technical issues there. Hello, and welcome to Career Saturday. My name is Yvonne Akimoden. I'm a career coach, and I help people over 40 make that successful career change. So today's Facebook Live, I wanted to talk to you about how to make a transition from full-time to part-time. For those who've been following the last few videos that I've done, you will know that this is part of a journey around career planning. So 3 weeks ago, I did a video about how to make a successful career plan for people over 40. And as part of that, we looked at the options that are open to people over 40. And for those of you who watched, you'll recall that we looked at 3 specific options that are open to people over 40. The first one was staying in a job, a 9 to 5, but maybe moving from where you are now to a different career. The second was leaving the world of 9 to 5 altogether and becoming a business owner, so working for yourself, self-employed. So we talked last week about how you make that transition from where you are now to where you want to get to. And if you haven't had a chance, the video is on my page, so please do watch that. You might find that helpful. And today we're going to talk about how you make that transition from being in a full-time job to part-time. Now, working part-time will obviously not suit everyone, but there are a number of people, and I've spoken to a few, who are not really interested in working full-time. Perhaps you have other things that you want to pursue with your career. But the question that you then ask is, how do you make that transition? Because like a lot of things, you want to make sure that you're prepared. You're prepared for that move, that shift, that change from where you are to where you want to be. And in order to successfully do that, one of the things that you must have is a plan. So your plan will vary, but for many people, even though most of us may dream of working part-time, we might still need to make sure that we have in place a very clear financial plan that will get us there. I've got clients and friends and colleagues who have been planning for the last 3 or 4 years to become part-time. Now that they're getting into their 40s and some in their 50s, they're now thinking, well, I don't mind doing what I'm doing now, but I don't want to do it full-time. But in order to make that transition, there are certain things that you may want to look at. So financially, you really need to do the maths. And I know that might sound obvious and you think, well, of course you do. But it's really important, because if you don't have the confidence that your finances are going to enable you to make that transition, then what you'll end up with is being in a place where you cannot afford to make that part-time move. So the sorts of things that you need to have as working part-time is you need to ensure that your big commitments are catered for. So obvious ones, if you have a mortgage, you want to make sure that it's either fully paid off, or if it is not fully paid off, you know that you have got the finances coming in to take you right to the very end of your career plan. The second thing that you need to know is, what are your general outgoings, and how are you going to ensure that they are all catered for? So your general outgoings, it's about really budgeting. What are they? How much do you take out every month? What are the things that you spend it on? What are the things that you might have to stop doing in order to be able to live a comfortable life on a part-time basis? So those are some of the things that you really might want to think about. So it's worth sitting down, making a list, going through that. If need be, also seeking financial advice. I'm by no means a financial expert, but I do recommend that you do get good financial advice. around things like perhaps you have a pension that is about to come to an end and you can access it. Perhaps part of your career plan might be that you are going to downsize your home, and that will free up income for you. So there are the whole raft of ideas and opportunities that are out there. So getting good and clear financial advice would be a really big step as part of your planning towards transitioning from full-time to part-time. The second thing that you need to have a really clear vision about is, what is it that you're going to do in that part-time role? Some people, again, have a very, very clear plan. Perhaps on a part-time basis, maybe what you would like to do is be self-employed. There are people who go into completely different professions. Maybe you want to open a coffee shop in your local area. That might be something that you decide to do. And you're going to employ other people. As part of that, if that is one of your options, as an example, what capital do you have? How are you going to fund that? Are you going to look at getting a business loan? These days, you don't all just have to get a business loan. You might look at crowdfunding. Many of you will have heard of crowdfunding, but for anyone who hasn't, crowdfunding is essentially where you access funds from people who agree to invest in your business through making contributions. So you go out and you find mini investors, if you will, and these people make a contribution towards your business on an agreed repayment plan. That might be an option that you may want to explore. Lots of options there. For some people, it may just be as simple as reducing your hours. So it may be that all you want to do is do exactly what you're doing now, but you just don't want to do it on a full-time basis. If that's the option that you're going down, what you need to find out is whether you can do it and stay in exactly the same job. So a conversation with your manager, your CEO, whoever it is that you report to, is going to be really important. And before you have that conversation, one of the things that you might want to do is understand the landscape within your organization. Where is your organization at this point in time? How likely are they going to be able to accept a request for a reduction in hours? What options will they have in terms of being able to cover the elements of your job that you're no longer going to do? So if you have answers to all these prepared before you put a case forward to your manager or your employer, it will make that opportunity to make that transition much easier. So it's really important that you have a plan. For some organizations, they may be very open to opportunities of job sharing, whereby you have two different people doing the same job, but they share the hours, and they might share them evenly, or they might share them unevenly. So you might decide, for instance, that you want to work 3 days a week, and there's somebody else who's doing the same job as you on 2 days a week. You might have a 50-50 split where you both do 2.5 days a week, and so on. There's a whole raft of different permutations. Maybe your employer will be accepting of that. One of the things, if that is a route that you want to go down, it's really helpful if you can facilitate a partner, somebody who will do the other half of your hours. Because for a lot of employers, it's not that they're necessarily unwilling or happy to accept somebody working on a part-time basis, but if it is a job that really requires somebody to work on a full-time basis, the challenge for them is going to be, well, it's all very well you want to come into this role on a part-time basis, but how do we fill the other half of your job? Now, if you've got an answer, you prepared that answer, the chances of them being accepting of you coming in on a part-time basis is much higher, because what they'll be thinking is, that's great, you've brought someone in, we know that between you, you're going to be able to cover those hours. The second part of that conversation will be around how does it work? Where one person was doing the job and you've now got two, you have to make sure that you and your partner, your job share partner, have a clear plan of how you're going to communicate between each other. And you will need to probably do that in your own time. So you may need to, it may be that the two of you have those conversations offline and you agree every Monday morning or every Wednesday morning or whatever day it might be, you're going to have a conversation together. You're going to have a really smooth, clear transition. You're also going to be really clear about who is the point of contact. So it may be that there are certain things on the job description where one of you takes the lead and the other person supports with something else. Because it's not just about how you work together, it's also about how that is communicated to the wider business. Because if you're in a customer-facing role, for instance, a customer does not want to phone up on a Monday, talk to one person, and phone up on a Friday about the same issue, talk to someone else, and that person has no idea what they're talking about. That's very frustrating. That's not good for the business, and it's less likely that the business will be accommodating to part-time working. So you doing all of that groundwork, having a really clear plan on how you're going to transition from full-time to part-time, what kind of options you're going to put out there is really, really important. The other option for you might be that you might decide that your organisation is unwilling. Maybe you've approached them and they've said, no, that's absolutely not going to be acceptable for us. We're not willing to look at part-time. And so therefore you might find that you have to go out and find a part-time role from scratch. If that happens, what you need to do in that scenario is you need to go and start looking for another job. And most part-time jobs usually want you to do at least 3 days a week. They want 3 days. Some will accept, some want as high as 4. Most will go for 2. Very few will go for 2, but you may find them. But there are, again, specialist websites you can go on. Timewise.com is one that is in the UK that you can go on, and they specialise in finding part-time employment. So that's a really good website. Another one that's a really good website to visit is Capability Jane. Capabilityjane.com is another really good website, and they again specialise in part-time hours. You have your general websites that you can go on and they can find opportunities for you. Depending on your area of specialism, if you work in IT and so on, you might find that those are really useful websites that you can visit, but there will be specialist websites within your own sector. So it's really about making that decision. When do you want to go part-time? What options are out there? Are you going to go part-time and fund a business? Or are you going to go part-time and work as a general 9 to 5, but just for fewer days of the week? And if so, how are you going to prepare yourself so that you can make sure that the transition from being full-time to part-time is in place? So those are my tips for today. I hope you found them helpful, and I hope that they will assist you in making that transition if that's something you've been thinking about. And if you have any questions, please, as always, do drop them in our Facebook group, or if you're part of the group, I've put the link on this video. If you're not part of our Facebook group, but you are linked to my page, Career Coach, then drop your questions in there and I'll do what I can to answer them. So I hope you found today's video useful. I hope it's giving you some food for thought. I would love to hear your comments, feedback, suggestions on topics that you'd like me to cover on Career Saturday. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope to see you next Saturday on Career Saturday. Thank you for your time.